The Constitution and the Bill of Rights are two of the most important documents in U.S. history. A constitution is a document that describes the basic plan for the laws and government of a country. It explains the main laws of a country and how its government works. That means that the U.S. Constitution states the basic laws of the United States and explains how the U.S. government works. One of the men who helped write the U.S. Constitution was James Madison. A small, quiet man, James Madison was born in 1751 in Virginia. He did not enjoy crowds, nor did he enjoy speaking to them. When he did, he had such a soft voice that listeners had to lean closer in order to hear Madison's words. Yet many people took the trouble to do so, because they thought Madison's words were worth hearing. He was well known for having great ideas and for making the most confusing problems clear. Often at the end of a conversation, this polite, quiet man would inspire people to think seriously about his important ideas. That is what happened when leaders of the new nation called the United States of America met in 1787 to decide what sort of government they wanted to form. The leaders came from all parts of the country and had all sorts of ideas. In the end, however, Madison's ideas had the greatest influence or effect in shaping the organization of the new American government. For example, Madison's idea of having three branches or sections of government, a president, a Congress, and a Supreme Court, is very important today. Together, these three branches in the American government balance each other's powers so that no one branch can be too powerful and make all the nation's decisions. When it was time to write down what they had agreed upon, Madison did more than anyone else to write the Constitution of the United States. James Madison's job was not done after the Constitution was written. In 1789, Madison helped write an extra part to add to the Constitution called the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights consisted of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. The Bill of Rights protected the rights of Americans, such as freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Over the years, the United States changes. America have found that the Constitution needs to change a little bit too. To do this, Americans add amendments, which are changes or additions to the Constitution. The amendments are believed to make the Constitution better for the lives of the American people. James Madison's fine work in developing the U.S. Constitution earned him the nickname the Father of the Constitution. Later, James Madison was elected to serve as the fourth President of the United States. Today, hundreds of years later, America's government and laws are based on what Madison and his fellow founding fathers created. The U.S. Constitution is the highest law of the land, so no one and no state is allowed to pass a law that goes against the Constitution's principles. But what does the Constitution say? Well, right from the start, the authors made a bold statement. The Constitution begins with a very famous introduction called the Preamble. It starts, "We the people of the United States." This means that the greatest power behind the American government is the American people, all citizens, rather than a king or a queen, or just the founding fathers who wrote the Constitution. The government of the United States represents all of the citizens of the United States. The citizens of the United States can vote to change how our government does things. This is called the consent of the governed. In return for this power, the people agree to live by and follow the laws. The preamble goes on to say that the citizens want the Constitution to make the nation run fairly for everyone, and that the states will unite or work together to help make the nation work smoothly. The preamble, or introduction to the Constitution, also tells us that American laws or rules must protect the liberties or freedoms of all citizens, not just some. It's an agreement that the Constitution is our most important set of rules. The preamble says that the federal government will include an army, navy, and other military forces to protect Americans from enemies. It also says that the government and the laws are meant to protect the liberties or freedoms for Americans now and in the future. The rest of the Constitution goes on to describe the different things the government is supposed to do. The government makes laws and carries them out. It solves problems, and the government protects Americans from certain dangers. It tells us we are supposed to make those things happen. It tells us how we are supposed to make those things happen. The Constitution also created the office of the President of the United States, the Congress, and the Supreme Court, which are made up of people who try to follow the principles of the Constitution. One reason the writers of the Constitution are still so admired is that they did an amazing job of creating a form of government that would not only help solve problems in their own time, but would also help solve all sorts of problems they thought might come up later. Today, we, the people of the United States, have a Congress made up of people from every state. We have a president to carry out those laws and courts to help us settle disagreements and keep the peace. Our country has military forces to protect us. Also, there are other parts of the government, all which are based on the ideas that James Madison and the other founding fathers wrote down over 200 years ago in the U.S. Constitution. As time goes on and our country grows, bringing new problems and wonderful new opportunities, new laws are being added to deal with problems and to protect the people. Whenever a new law is added, it is our job, our responsibility, to follow the new law or to speak out if we feel that the law does not agree with the principles of the Constitution. Although the Constitution was written over 200 years ago, it still tells us how our government is supposed to work, even today.